Fool? Hey, fool. Kevin's attempts to revive the young man are found to be fruitless. Young Perkins remained hovering between the realms of light and shadow. Suspended there, he hears the gentle voice of Jonah calling, summoning him into the blissful sleep of eternity. "I'm coming," replies young Perkins, his voice reflecting a dreamlike state. There he is engulfed in the dark realm of eternal rest, hovering, suspended between dimensions. Young Perkins greets the spirit of his cousin Jonah, who appears every bit alive. "Jonah!" shouts the young man. "Jonah, you're okay. Them white folks didn't kill you? I thought they got you for sure." The young man voices his relief. The soul-lifting sound of choral voices emanate all around them. Jonah seemed to smile at young Perkins with a glow that reflected a pleasant peace. The presence of elders long past appear from behind. Their bodies shimmer with a heavenly aura. Its golden illumination far surpasses anything of the ethereal. Many of the faces are strange to young Perkins, while others he remembers only in the pages of photo albums. Photos of uncles, great-uncles, great-great-grandfathers, of elders which had long since passed. The warm glow of blissful grace remove all fear. Thoughts of earthly pleasures, of earthly desires, are but a faint memory. With all of his heart he is overcome with the stubborn urge to remain immersed in the heavenly balm of that dreamlike realm. With every fiber of his being, the young man's contented spirit rejects the world and all of its horrors. Amid the gathering of elders past, a single individual approaches. A handsome black man in his early 30s smiles with a familiar warmth. It is then that young Perkins suddenly recognizes the greeter's friendly face. "Grandpa." The young man is pleasantly surprised to see the youthful face of that of his grandfather, who appears the very figure of health. In life, he had never met his grandfather, who had died years before his birth. He had only known him through the faded photos of his grandmother's picture book, she relating stories of their life only when in a melancholy mood. "Tell Emma not to worry. Tell her not to doubt. We'll be together again someday, nevermore to part." With those words, young Perkins understood the love his widowed grandmother felt for her departed husband. How kind he seemed. His spirit exhibited a tenderness, an all-encompassing compassion that the young man had never seen or felt in the earthly realm. While yet smiling, his grandfather steps back, thereon other figures stepped forward and introduce each other. "I'm Gloria, your great-aunt. Hi there, young man. I'm Stephen, your great-uncle." Each individual approximately the same age, their hair as thick and black as a raven's wing, no signs of the mark of time. Their faces bore no lines of age. Behind them stood a wall of pure, gleaming gold, behind which the voices of countless multitudes, thousands, millions, all throating rapturous declarations of praise to the divine, the splendor of which echo into infinity. Amid the heavenly hue, two winged figures appear before him. Their presence emits a blinding radiance that causes young Perkins to quickly look away. Above all, the echoed voice of one who is eternal commands the young man to return. Flanked on both sides by the glowing figures, he is escorted through a shimmering, sparkling tunnel of light into the dark, heavy burden of earthly flesh. Young Perkins' eyes remained tightly closed, for the brightness of the spirits that guided him still seemed to have hold of his hand. But now the feel of the hands felt very different, not the feel of spiritual flesh, but warm, feminine, human hands gripped his palms, one holding on to his right hand, while the other clasped his left. With the opening of his eyes, young Perkins realizes his present location. To his utter amazement, he finds himself in church, seated on the front pew. Clutching his right hand was the mournful face of his grandmother, while looking to his left appeared the downcast face of that of his Aunt Bessie May. Prominently displayed before him, right underneath the preacher's podium, rests a veritable botanical garden, a wondrous riot of colors, flowers, roses, daffodils, lilacs, lilies, daisies, all surrounding a simple rough-hewn wooden casket. Slowly, like the rising of the winter moon illuminating the dark chill of night, like a sleeper awakens by a sudden slap, young Perkins gasps in disbelief. He was back on Earth, attending Jonah's funeral. How long had he been in that wondrous realm? To him it seemed but an instant. What was the interim between the time of his unconsciousness to that of the present? Young Perkins' mind vainly struggled to understand. The church was filled. Everyone was present, their mournful faces all reflective of their somber black garments. Pastor Jackson preached a sermon concerning the resurrection to come, his stirring oratory lifting the crowd but not the mood which remained unchanged. For there, before all, laid the blasphemous outrage of a murdered child, not merely murdered but hideously mutilated, a ghoulish reminder of life in Muskie. The fact that the casket was closed spoke volumes, a stark reminder of the fate that could befall anyone, whether man, boy, or child. This was simply the way things were in Mississippi. This was the reality of life in America. After the benediction, 6 of the church elders gently lifted Jonah's casket and began the sad journey to the cemetery. Exiting the double doors, the pallbearers continue down the path, walking in slow steps. They are followed by the congregation. Young Perkins and Jonah's family shadow the pallbearers. Among the group of pallbearers was none other than his uncle Silas, who has every appearance of insobriety. Lingering in his drunkenness, he can barely support the casket, let alone his own weight. Fighting to hold back tears, he weaves back and forth, encumbering the 5 other pallbearers, who nearly drop the casket. Silas rejects the urging of the other men to release his grip. He continues poorly, playing the role of that of the grieving pallbearer, reeking to the heavens with the nauseating stench of cheap hooch. Young Perkins had attended a funeral or two, but this time things were different. Usually the congregation sings some sort of religious hymn, whether it be one of uplifting joy of an elder gone on to glory, or a hymn sung sad and solemn, reflecting the passing of an individual who had departed the earth before their time. However, now the congregation walked in absolute silence. The only voice heard was the weeping of Bessie May. Several dozen yards behind the old wooden church rests the Negro cemetery where the congregation's members are laid to rest. However, today, the pastor leading the group passes by and walks down the trail that is seldom, if ever, trod. This narrow trail led to the plot of land called Potter's Field. There is where strangers, ne'er-do-wells, and the unbaptized are put to ground. In turning left, Bessie May instantly realizes that Jonah is not to be placed among the souls of the righteous. Stricken to the core, she instantly burst into fits of wails and cries of agony. Potter's Field, an ungodly place, like an oubliette, a place of forgetting. 5 miserable, lonely acres of unhallowed ground, where the bitter graves of lost souls groan in an uneasy sleep. There, among the doomed and the damned, are graves where bramble bushes, crabgrass, brood amid dry clusters of an overgrowth of dead weeds. No marble headstones grace their graves, merely rough-hewn wooden crosses, half-rotted, each leaning like dying men. As the congregation reaches a spot where Jonah is to be placed in the ground, an open pit awaits, to receive that which the church grounds had rejected. Jonah's mother cries out, "My God, Jesus, my God, don't let. Through the anguish of tortured eyes, Bessie May ceases her mournful supplications and simply resigns herself to the bitter fact that her son will rest among the restless. With clasped hands, she emits moans and groans in the deepest heartfelt manner, bringing tears to all, even to the eyes of young Perkins, who weeps to see his cousin lowered down into the earth. Down, down, down. The hole is merely 6 feet, but it seems an eternity until the casket reaches bottom. Pastor Jackson begins to recite the Lord's Prayer. The congregation joins in. 5 men begin shoveling in shovels full of earth, where it slowly closes around the casket containing Jonah's final remains. As the soil reaches the surface of the earth, men began to pat the earth tightly into place. In the distance, the faint sound of a bell chiming is heard by all. The congregation's prayers echo into silence as the conjurer-woman passes. A cold chill follows a raw sense of unease as all save Silas, avert their eyes. The chiming bell is followed by the tap, tap, tap sound of the wooden walking stick. Its hollow reverberations eerily announce her dreadful approach. Silas's drunken gaze follows the figure. Mumbling curses beneath his rancid breath, his fear builds to anger as he finds a father's courage. "Damn you!" His voice thunders with anger. All present attempt to warn Silas of the danger. Their efforts to assuage him from his open demonstrations only urged him further into fury, a fury of absolute rage. With loud curses, Silas breaks the grips of those who would attempt to restrain him. Bursting from the midst of the crowd, he boldly staggers into the path of the conjure-woman. It was you, killed my boy." Through gritted teeth, he bitterly accuses the witch. Damn you to hell, Granny Hagan." He lay before her feet, there in the dust of the lonely road. Silas, in a tortured voice, commands, "Here I am, overshadow me." The conjure-woman coldly ignores the challenge and merely steps around the prostrate body, her shadow coming nowhere near him. She continues on her way, her cane tapping slowly in the distance. Silas remained prostrate in the dust of the road, his hands clutching fistfuls of dirt. Silas's mouth opens into a silent scream. He bares his teeth and begins to gnaw the ground in anguished fits of helpless anger.